The Houthis claim they shot down a Saudi military drone, escalating tensions with one of Washington's closest Arab allies. Yemen's Houthi movement says its air defenses brought down a Saudi-operated Chinese-made Wing Loong drone during a mission. The reported loss of a Chinese-built Wing Loong drone raises fresh questions about the survivability of high-value UAVs in Yemen. The Houthis say their air defense units successfully intercepted and destroyed a Chinese-made Wing Loong drone operated by Saudi Arabia. The Houthis warn that Saudi military drones will remain vulnerable as they vow to strengthen air defense operations over Yemen. Houthi military spokesman Yahya Saree said the group's air defense units shot down a Saudi-operated Wing Loong II unmanned combat aerial vehicle. The Houthis claimed the Chinese-built drone was conducting a reconnaissance mission over Yemen's Al-Bayda Governorate when it was intercepted. The reported shootdown marked a sharp escalation after months of relatively limited cross-border military activity between the two sides. Origin: developed by China's Aviation Industry Corporation, CIG, for long-endurance combat missions. Type: medium altitude, long endurance, male, unmanned combat aerial vehicle. Endurance: capable of remaining airborne for more than 30 hours on a single mission. Maximum altitude: can reportedly operate at altitudes of approximately 30,000 feet. Estimated cost: valued at roughly $3 million, depending on configuration. The reported incident followed recent strikes linked to Sanaa and retaliatory attacks directed towards Saudi Arabia's Abha region. Houthi officials warned that any future violation of Yemeni airspace would be met with an immediate military response by their forces. Saudi authorities had not publicly commented on the reported loss of the Wing Loong II combat drone at the time of reporting. Military analysts said the incident has renewed questions about the survivability of large combat drones in increasingly contested airspace. Suspected system: believed to be an Iranian-derived surface-to-air missile system. Primary role: designed to engage medium-altitude, long-endurance combat drones. Engagement method: uses passive or low-emission tracking to reduce detection before launch. Capability: considered effective against reconnaissance and loitering unmanned aerial vehicles. Operational impact: could significantly strengthen local anti-access and area denial, A2AD, capabilities. Analysts said the reported interception could force Saudi Arabia to reassess how it employs surveillance and combat drones over central Yemen. The incident also raised fresh concerns about military security around the strategically vital Bab al-Mandab maritime corridor. The Houthis have issued a clear warning to international carriers, urging them not to operate in Saudi Arabian airspace until the restrictions they oppose are formally lifted and safety guarantees are provided. The Yemeni group publicly implored airlines and governments to take our warnings seriously, framing the plea within a wider context of escalating regional tensions and the very real possibility of further military reprisals. That advisory comes on the heels of reports that Saudi forces conducted a strike aimed at Sanaa International Airport, an attack that sharply heightened fears about the safety of nearby civilian flights. Tensions spiked after a Mahan airplane from Iran landed in Sanaa, which is under Houthi control, prompting alarm among regional actors and observers who saw the arrival as politically and militarily significant. According to Houthi statements and unconfirmed reports, that aircraft was carrying senior movement leaders returning from travel in Iran, a detail that added to the diplomatic sensitivity of the flight. The delegation's trip was reportedly to attend the funeral of Iran's former supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, an event that underscored the close political and ideological ties between Tehran and the Houthi leadership. Saudi forces are reported to have struck Sanaa International Airport around the time the aircraft was returning from Iran, an action that Houthi officials say directly endangered the plane and its passengers. Following the strike and growing concerns for its safety, the plane diverted and was able to make a safe landing at Al-Hudaydah, the Red Sea port city, according to local authorities. The Houthis warn that civilian flights remain at risk as long as Sanaa airport faces what they describe as an effective blockade, arguing that restricted access and military threats make operations unsafe. This aviation advisory arrives amid a renewed flare-up of tensions centered on Yemen's principal international airport, turning what had been tentative post-conflict normalcy back into a flashpoint. The Houthis have a history of issuing comparable warnings in the past, specifically targeting commercial flights with perceived links to Israel, which has repeatedly raised alarm across the aviation sector. Regional carriers and aviation authorities are now closely monitoring the evolving security situation, reassessing routes and contingency plans to mitigate potential risks to passengers and crew. The latest Houthi advisory has reignited fresh concerns about the safety of civilian aviation across the Middle East, prompting airlines, insurers, and governments to re-evaluate risk and operational decisions. Yemen says the Bab al-Mandab Strait will be shut alongside the Strait of Hormuz if the conflict continues to escalate. Houthi leaders claim that a dual blockade could trigger a massive shock to global energy markets, with crude prices reaching $200 a barrel. A senior Yemeni official says Bab al-Mandab and Hormuz could be closed together as part of a coordinated military operation. Mohammed al-Farah, a member of the Houthi political bureau, said, and I quote, "If the current situation aggravates, the Bab al-Mandab Strait and the Strait of Hormuz will be closed in an operational alliance. Oil prices would then skyrocket to $200 a barrel in a dreadful shock." Unquote. The Houthis have warned that any new Saudi strike will trigger a wider escalation across regional sea lanes. The group also says its forces are prepared to strike deep inside Saudi Arabia if Riyadh launches further attacks. The Bab al-Mandab Strait remains one of the world's most critical maritime choke points, linking the Red Sea with the Suez Canal. Ansarullah says shutting both Bab al-Mandab and the Strait of Hormuz would deliver a devastating blow to global energy markets. The Houthis accuse Washington of encouraging Saudi Arabia to open a new military front against Yemen. Yemen has accused Saudi Arabia of targeting Sanaa International Airport in violation of international humanitarian law. Houthi leaders warn that Saudi Arabia will face serious consequences if further attacks are carried out. The group says its campaign to break what it calls the long-running blockade of Yemen will continue.
The Yemeni armed forces carried out a high-quality military operation targeting Abha International Airport, launching several ballistic missiles and drones. By the grace of God, the operation successfully achieved its objectives. Through its reckless decision to launch an unjust attack on Sanaa International Airport, the Saudi enemy bears full responsibility for this brutal aggression, which served the American Zionist enemy, as well as for the resulting repercussions. The Yemeni armed forces are determined to stand firm in repelling the aggression and lifting the unjust blockade on our country. In this context, we warn all airlines against flying through Saudi Arabian airspace and urge them to take our warning seriously until the blockade on Sanaa International Airport is lifted.
Meanwhile, reports say President Donald Trump has backed a proposed Saudi military operation against the Houthis.